So when we think about biotic communities, we may relegate ourselves to thinking about things like mammals or birds, but I was curious, what could there possibly be living inside of a tiny drop of water from a place like Dry Creek in Modesto? So I went to Dry Creek. I went ahead and got myself a couple of samples of some of the stagnant water there, and let's see what we found. So I started by bringing my sample back to my highly scientific dining room laboratory. And you'll see I'm using a transfer pipette to get just a little tiny bit of water, trying to get some of the samples from the bottom. Put a little bit of water back here just so I can get some substrate, so there's some of the floaty stuff in there, because that's where the critters like to live. And you can see I'm just getting one drop of water. We're only going to be looking at one drop. And I go ahead and drop the cover slip on there to remove any air. I kind of failed at that, as we'll see, but I'm supposed to remove all the air, and I go ahead and I put it onto my microscope stage, and I'm using a camera so that we can all see what's going on. So when you first start observing a sample like this, it looks like a lot of empty space. It doesn't really look like very much is going on. But as I get my zoom adjusted, as I get the light adjusted a bit, we're going to start to see things moving around. So there's our nice air bubble. Like I said, I messed up when dropping the slip. You can see there's some portions of stuff growing in there, or leftover remnants of plants or detritus, whatever that happens to be. And when the camera calms down a bit, you'll be able to see there are indeed things moving around in this solution. There's another air bubble. I'm kind of chasing that thing, whatever it is. And it's cruising around pretty good. It's living its life, so we've got at least one thing hanging out in our drop of water. And it's honestly probably running away from the light. Most of these critters are light sensitive and do not enjoy being observed. Let's see, maybe there's a couple of other things. Just the edge of our air bubble. Maybe some algae fibers right there. And if I hold still, get this back into focus. But if I hold still, and there we go, you can start to see there's other things moving around, especially if I adjust the light a bit. Maybe you can visualize the other things that are swimming around in this solution. So these are, tiny microscopic organisms, and I'm curious what you think. There's a big one. But I'm curious what you think, based on what you know about density-dependent and density-independent factors, which these critters would fall into in their natural system. So not in this single droplet of water form, but out in the little pools and the little kind of scum ponds that exist in the Tuolumne River at Dry Creek when it dries out periodically. So I'm also curious, what else you guys think? What would happen, or how would the population of one of these tiny things grow? Would it grow exponentially? Would it grow logistically? What would be the sort of limiting factors for one of these things living year-round in one of those pools? Another interesting question for us is, if you're an ecologist and you see a sample like this, do you think that it is indicative of a healthy ecosystem? Do you think that these particular organisms can live in an unhealthy ecosystem? And is there anything that you could use potentially to figure out, hey, this is actually a healthy ecosystem? How many species do you estimate live here? I mean, in this frame alone, I can see at least 4. There's like the big guy hiding behind the gunk. You've got the couple little tiny guys zooming around, and you had that corkscrew thing. How many species do you think live within 1 drop of water? And then you can see, I think these two are something, they're similar organisms, they're both hiding from me. It's just, there's just so much going on here. That little spiral guy looks unique, so I chased him around for a second. You see him zoom off to the right there. Lots of different microbial morphology here, many different species, lots of different ways to attempt to survive. Many different niches are filled just within 1 drop of water. So you have some organisms here that are probably autotrophs, meaning they are photosynthesizing. You're going to have some organisms that are heterotrophs, meaning they're either eating plants or eating other organisms that are just within this 1 little drop. So, again, within 1 drop, we have a huge array of microbial diversity. We also have the many different niches and many different feeding strategies, many different movement strategies. There is a ton going on within almost every square inch of the biosphere, especially if you live somewhere where it doesn't really freeze very often and doesn't get mega hot like the Central Valley where we all live. Look at all those things.